Hello ladies and gents, this is another video brought to you by Ants Hood, and today I'll be doing an honest product review, but this time on the Wakooshi Venus Nest. Some of you might know that other YouTubers have done product reviews on this, and I left a comment pointing out the bad points that I thought of, and then I just got character assassinated. So yeah, I decided to do my own review. One of the reasons why I started product reviews is because I got sick to death of people reviewing products, not pointing out the rubbish things with them, and telling everybody they're great when they're not. Either they're overpriced, or they just don't work, or there's some bad points to it. Nobody ever says the truth. I don't know if it's because they're sponsored by them. I'm not sure if it's because they get sent free stuff and they want to keep that arrangement. I don't know, but this is why I started putting in honest product reviews. No, I'm not saying their reviews aren't valid, because they are. We've all got opinions and we're entitled to those opinions. Remember that, people. We are entitled to our opinions. You might not like them, but that's the thing about opinions. Not everyone does. But anyway, so they're entitled to their opinions and they can make whatever they say in their review. So when I got drunk, after being annoyed because somebody called me some profanities on one of those comments, then promptly deleted it, I decided to buy the product myself. So here it is here, instructions as are stated really, and I will review it with following their instructions. So the first thing the instructions say is to take off the protective film, so that's what I'm going to do now. Now, the plastic is pretty much standard quality. It's good, it's robust, it's fairly transparent with a red filter, so can't say anything negative about this. I haven't got any issues with it. Now step 2 talks about filling up the test tubes, removing them from the cases and then filling them up. Now if memory serves, let me just grab it here so I can read from it. Step 2, you need to remove the 3 test tubes, which I've already done, and then fill 2 halfway up, which is a bit of a guesstimate to be fair, but yeah. I don't even know why I bothered and adjusted it. I was just being overly finicky, I guess. But yeah, fill it full of half a test tube, stick the old cotton wool in, and I placed that water like that on the side so I wouldn't spill it anywhere, and watch what I do with it anyway. Yep, you guessed it, I spill it all over my instructions, because that's the kind of guy I am. But anyway, when you put this in, just for note for future reference as well, try and do it down as quickly and as smoothly as possible, and you stop getting any air bubbles. I didn't do that with this and I got an air bubble. Now it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world, so you know, don't worry about it. Then I pushed it down like I was going to use it for real. I still might put something in this, I don't know yet. Now there was no point in watching you do this again, so I've just fast forwarded this bit as I fill the second test tube to roughly the same as the first test tube, as per the instructions. But with the third test tube, the instructions do state to fill it pretty much to the top, leaving approximately 2 centimeters from the top. But me being the rebel that I am, and I misinterpreted it to be fair, I thought it meant to fill it up 3/4, but I don't know why. I'm just stupid, I guess. But anyway, so I've done it a bit lower than it recommends, but it doesn't really matter anyway. So yeah, this one's supposed to be your drinking test tube, so they can get water and stuff from it. But then again, they'll get that from the test tube they're already in. But yeah, there's a third one for this, even though, yeah. Now what I do like about this is there's 3 different sizes for the access into the outworldy bit. So you got a narrow one left, and to the right it gets more open. Now what I would do was I would put the more fuller or the hydration test tube into the largest opening for it. Now that will also help get the humidity out into the outworld a bit as well, if they like a bit of a humid outworld. Then for the middle one, there we go, it clicks in actually quite nicely, it's quite fluid on that one, as you see here again. So what I'll do with that was I'll put the left 2 for the colony to live in, because if the access to the outworld's a bit too big, then they get a little bit stressed. So the smaller better. Obviously it needs to be of a species that can fit in there. You try and get a Carabera queen in there, you got no hope. But equally I wouldn't put a Carabera queen in here, so yeah, it's alright. I don't really think this really matters, it's 3D printed. Yes, I've seen better 3D printed quality from like high-tech ants. I think their lines are finer and not as prominent or ridgy, so they've got the printer set up better. And the top here I don't think looks too fantastic when it comes to 3D printing. Maybe if they did an iron finish it would look a lot better, just saying guys. But my misgivings about 3D printed items doesn't really valid with this nest, because all the moisture is kept in the test tube, so I don't need to worry about it warping or doing anything dodgy like that. Now what this does have, which I really like, is these little notches here where you can put a heat cable. You can just snap them out. I'm not going to do that yet, but yeah, you can just snap them out and you can thread a heat cable through it, which is good because it keeps it in the same place. It keeps it all flat and level. We don't need to worry about it rocking and disturbing the ants. But the issue I've got is that this ruler here is going right down the middle of that recess, and you can see the top edge of the ruler cuts across right where the moisture and the ant space is going to be. So what that's going to do is it's going to form condensation, and you could run the risk of drowning your ants or drowning your brood. So that's not good. It really needs, realistically speaking, needs to be moved further up, probably about here, so that you can get that nice gradient of moisture, heat, without drowning your ants and by the condensation. Now the outworld's got a bit of a twisty thing to get into it for a lid, should I say, which isn't too bad. It's not brilliant, not bad, not many comments about it, to be fair. It does a job. Now the outworld plastic, I've been told, pops off, so you have to be a bit gentle with it, but it does pop off, which means you can apply a barrier there. The only issue I've got is that you can't then apply barrier later on, and I'll show you what I mean in a bit. So, and what I didn't know, the bottom pops out as well, so be mindful of that. Caught me by surprise. I thought it was one bit of plastic, horribly wrong, and it's not fixed in place only by friction. So just be mindful of that whenever you're moving it about. If you put it on an uneven surface with a bit of force, you might pop it off, ants get out. Potentially, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Now this is what I mean about the barrier. Yes, you can pop the top off so you can apply a barrier on it, but once it gets worn down by the ants crawling over it, you can't get, and you don't want to take it off because there's too many ants in there, because you can hold a couple of hundred ants depending on size in this test setup. So you can't get your spatula majigger in there to apply a barrier. So I've used it with a fixed one and I couldn't do it, and I'm going to use it with this, and you can just get a little tip of it in, which the ants will cross within minutes. So when it comes to longevity of being able to get access to the outworld area, to put food in and out without the ants, because like I said, this can hold a couple of hundred ants, maybe even up to, depending on size, up to 500 ants. It's just not viable, because they're going to be in that outworld, they're going to want to get out, and they're going to be trying to get out when you try and feed them. So that bit is not very practical. Now my personal opinion on this nest is, I just don't think it knows what it is, because it's far too big for a foundation colony, and it's far too small for a established colony as well. I mean, when I say established, I mean like a couple of hundred workers, because the outworld's just not very practical when it comes to reapplying a barrier once it wears down or gets worn out, and feeding them is going to be a nightmare. Now you might think to yourself, you've got a little port on the end here, which by the way is a great addition to it because it wasn't there originally. You can attach an outworld to it and you can use this as their nest area. You can, but the same issues is going to apply. That I know ants very well, and they will dump their rubbish in that the smaller outworld attached to this nest. So you're going to have to get in there to clean it out at some point, hence why I think it will be an issue, because you can't apply a barrier. Now I've never ordered any ants from Wakooshi, but one would like to think that this is made for them. Their test tubes that the ants come in are the same size as these, so when you get them you can slot it straight in and then start using it. That would be a good idea. And with that mindset as well, I personally would like to see one for standard test tubes. This is your standard 10 centimeters long, 1.5 centimeters diameter, and that would fit in beautifully. They don't fit in this because they're too small, like, but I think something like that would be a lot better rather than the massive huge test tubes they use. Plus, if I get a test tube from another retailer I bought ants from, I could just simply take out the cotton wool, slot it in, Bob's your uncle, and I'm ready to go. And that would mean it will reduce it by 5 centimeters in size, making it slightly cheaper, because obviously smaller test tubes, less printing time, less printing filament needed and stuff like that, with a total length of 17 centimeters. I think that's more viable, and I think that's more useful as well, because you won't have to hold a huge amount of ants in it as well. You know, you could use it for normal, and when they are ready to move on to the next stage, you can just hook up a new nest to the extension outworldy tubey bitty thing it's got, and away you go. I think that if I do end up using this, once I've connected a test tube full of ants to it, I'll never remove that test tube, because they will get out. I can't think of a logical or easy way to take a test tube out with ants in it without them getting everywhere. If I do figure it out, I'll let you know in an update, but I just don't think it's viable. So once they're in there, they stay in there until you can move them out into a new nest. Now here's some of the bad points. The 3D printing isn't the best quality, but it's still practical. It's the wrong placing for the notches for the heat cable. The base isn't fixed in place, it's too big for a foundation colony, and there's no easy way to remove a test tube without ants escaping once you've got ants in there, such as the hydration needs replacing, or it changes colour and needs replacing, that kind of stuff. And you can't apply a barrier easy to the outworld. But there is some good points as well which I want to talk about. The red filter is great visibility, which is good to see. The 3 different size access to the outworld, I really like that. It's a good idea. The notches for the heat cable, yes, they're in the wrong place, but it's a great idea that you don't see often. And if the test tube that they supply, and when you buy them from their website, is the same size as the test tubes that fits in this, that is a great innovation. So that means if I'm new to ant keeping, I can buy a colony of ants, buy this, and they slot straight in. That is a brilliant idea. As I've never bought ants from Wakooshi, I can't tell you if the test tubes are the same. So somebody please leave a comment and let me know. Let's just hope that KB Ants now understands why I made the comments about this nest. Now I've justified it in this video, because I don't think they're unfounded. And here's my case in point, to be honest. It's been on this heat cable for about an hour now, give or take. And look at the condensation already. So you can imagine if it's on there for a day or two, what's going to happen. Now, believe it or not, up to this point, everything I've done with this video I filmed a couple of weeks ago, but I put it on hold because I was waiting to do something with the colonialist. I'll talk about that a bit in a second. But what happened after I filmed this, I made a suggestion in my film about the test tubes being interchangeable with, like, if Wakooshi supplied test tubes that fit straight into this. So for example, if you bought a new queen and you, in a test tube seal, you want a bit of an outworld to feed them in, which I'm a big fan of, by the way, because then we don't need to disturb them, then you can just slot it straight in. Now, I spoke to Wakooshi and he said he's got messes in here, and I thought, you know what, I've got a mess of colony, look, here she is. She would slot straight in and be awesome. And what I noticed, as well, as you can see from this video, is that the test tube she was supplied in fits perfectly into that. Now, what I did originally suggest at the end of the video, before editing this into it, was that it would be great if this was a thing that Wakooshi did, that they supply ants with these test tubes, and then they can just slot straight in. So if you buy a queen and you buy the test tubes fit, boom, straight in. You've got a little outworld with a queen that's got some workers, and you can start feeding them straight away, blah de blah de blah, without disturbing them. And this proves the concept is a brilliant idea if Wakooshi do that. Now, originally, myself and the colonialist were going to record us talking about this nest and then edit both the conversations into the end of our videos and our reviews. But, fueled by whiskey, I had the genius idea of live streaming our debate, so people can come along and watch, ask questions and our thoughts on it, and also we can get Wakooshi to come on and he can talk about his nest, the points we raised, or what he wants to do go forward. So he actually agreed, believe it or not, which is great. So tomorrow, from the day of releasing this video, tomorrow at 2000 UK time, or 8 PM, whichever method you use for time, we're going to be live streaming. So come along, I'll put the link in the description, come along, talk with us, chat, ask us questions, blah 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 blah, and then see what Wakooshi has to say about our feedback from this nest. Now, you might ask why I've put foil over this, but the reason I've put foil over it is because I understand messers can see in the red spectrum. So to keep them comfortable and happy, I've just put it so it's darked out a little bit. Now, the colonialist did point out to me that messers don't climb horizontal acrylic very well, so they might be suited for this outworld that they've got here, so they won't necessarily be able to get out of the entrance. I've still put a barrier on it, as you well know from earlier. Now, I have seen a number of pictures from Wakooshi, who sent them when we've had drunken conversations, that he's sent me that says that he has had colonies in here and he hasn't found an issue with that. Unfortunately, I don't have a colony large enough to put in there to test the viability on it, but I will, if I find that the comments made in this video are in fact not right or infactual, then I will look at changing the review or do an update. But currently, even though they've been in this nest for a couple of weeks, my opinion is still the same with this nest. But like I said, if it does change, I'll do an update. Right guys, here's a disclaimer. These are my opinions and my observations. They may differ from yours, and that's cool. You're entitled to your opinions. Do not get abusive because I have different opinions from you. It is just a way of life. So these are my opinions, guys. You might not agree with me, you may agree with me, you may not, but either way, make your own mind up. I hope I've been a bit more comprehensive than a lot of other reviews you get out there, but you might hate it. Oh well. But that's it for today then, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you on my next video. Goodbye for now.